Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Gene Edwards. This is my good buddy Sam Jackson. You guys are watching NHL Aftermath for June the 3rd, 2010. This is episode number 3. Still a work in progress, but we are getting better and better and better. Are we not, Sammy?
Yeah, except you said the date was June 3rd, 2010.
Oh, did I say? Okay, we're getting worse and worse and worse, Sam. Okay, sorry. Episode 3 for June the 10th, 2023. This
Yeah,
is
I was like, you're 13 years too late there, bud.
You betcha. You betcha. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on in the NHL, Sammy, including Mike Babcock coming back.
Yep.
I want to get into a good discussion with you about that one. We briefly kind of talked on it last week. And there's also uh, some other discussion points when it comes to Pierre Luc Dubois. I want to get your thoughts on him. Also, the Stanley Cup final thus far. So, we got a few things to talk about. Now, because we had this little glitch and I had to kind of shut down everything and then reboot, I lost my trades, but there was a few trades. I don't exactly have it listed right now. Maybe I could pull it up real quick here if I still had it.
I believe Ivan just
Okay, here it is
quick about it.
actually.
Yeah, go for it.
I'll go for it. I just had to reboot it back up. I still had it in my history here. Okay,
Okay.
so this is what has happened in the last couple of days there, Sam. As far as according to NHL Trade Tractor. So on June 9th, Columbus Blue Jackets, so that's today, acquired, or no, that was yesterday,
Yesterday.
acquired Damon Severson from the New Jersey Devils in exchange for a third round pick in 2023. So that's another D man that is they're definitely looking to bolster their defense, and they did a big trade on June the 6th as they got Ivan Provorov from the Philadelphia Flyers in a three-team trade that also included Los Angeles Kings. Uh, the Philadelphia Flyers acquire Cal Peterson, defenseman Sean Walker, Hedge Grands, a first-round pick in the 2023 NHL draft, a second round pick in the 24 NHL draft, and a conditional second round pick in the 24 NHL draft. Los Angeles acquired defenseman Kevin Constantin. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing
Connaughton.
that right. Hey?
Connaughton.
Connaughton, yeah. Connaughton. Forward Hayden Hodgson and 30% of Ivan Provorov's contract. That's huge. And then, of course, Edmonton Oilers made a small one on May 31st, getting Jaden Grube from the New York Rangers in exchange for a fifth round pick in the 2023 NHL draft. So that was a bit of a small one. But just quickly on what you think about the Ivan Provorov deal and what that could mean for Columbus.
Well, the thing was last year with the Columbus Blue Jackets is they anticipated making the playoffs this past season. That was their goal. That's why they went out and got Johnny Gaudreau. That's why they picked up even Eric Goodbranson, who's a good third line or third pairing defenseman, solid minutes, plays a body physical guy. They went out and made some deals around, the idea of, okay, they missed the playoffs for a year. They want to get back in. They had that idea in mind. That was their goal. That was their plan. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. You look at the season they had a pretty abysmal season for all intents and purposes. And, trade deadline, they trade, Vladislav Gavrikov away. They trade away Eunice Corpusalo. They made some moves to move a bunch of guys out. And so now I think their idea in mind is, again, to bring in some guys to be able to go from here to hopefully make it back into the playoffs. So somebody like Ivan Provorov coming in, who's a solid defenseman. Obviously Philadelphia is kind of rebuilding now as well. So they're trading away their prominent guys. So now they trade away Ivan Provorov. I think he'll be a great, maybe top pairing defenseman alongside Zach Werenski. At minimum, Ivan Provorov, I'd say, is a second pairing defenseman. But honestly, I see him probably slotted in with Werenski on top pairing. And then on top of that, like you're talking about the Damon Severson trade, it was a sign and trade, and so he signed the contract extension, and then is traded to Columbus, and so now that's a good second pairing defenseman. as well for the Blue Jackets, and so they have a solid, at least top three. I can't remember the rest of their defensive core, but they actually have if I can remember correctly, they actually have a pretty decent top six defense. Like their
Yeah,
defensive
now
core is
they
actually
do.
pretty
Yeah,
decent.
yeah.
Um, I don't know what they do goaltender wise because they got rid of Corpusalo. I can't remember who their backup is. Well, I guess who their starter is now. I can't remember off the top of my head. But if they can figure out their goaltending, if they can add a few good pieces in on their forward core, they could very well contend for a playoff spot next year. I don't know if they'll necessarily make it. Just the Metropolitan Division, again, is so tricky to try and make the playoffs, and especially now that New Jersey has risen and is going to seemingly be a perennial contender or playoff team, at least for now. The Rangers as well, just coming out of a retool. They're a very good team, and the Hurricanes are the Hurricanes. You know, I don't know. And then too, you got to fight with the Islanders. You got to fight with the Penguins. Maybe probably the Capitals. That's going to be tough for them to try and make it, but they're doing good so far to push that in.
Well, Bettman definitely wanted parity in the league, and he's definitely getting that because now we're seeing, you know, Florida in the finals, which was
Yep.
astonishing to know that they've been in two Stanley Cup finals, and Thursday night was their very first Stanley Cup final victory. So
Yep.
that was very interesting. Anyway, yeah, Columbus is going to be a very, very different looking team. And they are going to have Mike Babcock behind the bench. That is going to add such a different dynamic, too. Now, I know last week you were praising Mike Babcock on how good of a coach he is, but I'm going to give you some arguing points on that, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Um, First of all, he was inherited some pretty damn good teams. Okay,
100%. Yeah.
got only one Stanley Cup to his resume. Yes, he has a lot of Canadian gold medals, but geez, man, Crosby, Iginla, like just that roster. Perry was pretty good at that time. You had I can't. The names aren't coming to me right now, but that
That
roster was
2010 Canada Olympic roster was disgusting.
yes,
Yeah, Ryan Kessler, Corey Perry, you had Scott Niedermayer on defense. You
yeah,
had Marty Brodeur, Roberto Luongo, Marc-Andre
yes,
Fleury as goaltenders.
yeah,
Like you said, Crosby, Iginla. I think Eric Stahl was on that team. Like that team, it was gross.
yes,
It was gross. The U.S. took that team to overtime in the final, and that U.S. team was very good too. On the likes of Brian Miller, Ryan Kessler, Joe Pavelski, like they had a very good team as well. Zach Parise scored the tying goal in that game, but that Canadian team was man, like holy.
yeah. It was. So that's my debating thing. Like, was Babcock actually a good coach? Because when it came to him coaching Toronto, and I believe it was confirmed. This was many years ago, but I'm pretty sure it was confirmed that he asked Mitch Marner to do a list of work ethic of his teammates and rank them. Was there something along those lines?
Something like that. I don't know if that's specifically what it was, but
Yeah,
there
I
was
don't
something
wanna,
like
I don't
that.
want to do character
Like,
association if I'm incorrect, but from my understanding there was some kind of thing on who had the strong and he asked at that time a very young Mitch Marner who's already dealing with a lot of nerves
yeah,
and stuff to do something like that and basically throw some of his teammates under the bus, right? Like that's kind of harsh, and I don't know if that is a good coaching tactic. I honestly think that's a horrible coaching tactic because you're alien. At the end of the day, you're all a team. You're all a united front. You're alienating
mm-hmm.
your teammates by doing that. If that is
Yeah,
in fact what happened.
yeah. Like I'm not going to defend those actions. I'm not 100%. I'm not going to. Um, I think for me, Babcock is kind of like a Daryl Sutter. They have that old school kind of way of coaching, which can be pretty aggressive, can be very sandpapery with their players. They get results for sure. They get results, absolutely, but they're old school, which you look at how the world kind of is nowadays, you can't really coach that way. Like, honestly,
No.
look at John Tortorella, right? Torts was known for being the hardest, you know, baddest and, like that kind of sense coach in the
SOB.
league, the meanest SOB in the league, right, as a coach. And, he got his results, but, there also, he short-lived a few places. A few places didn't, he walked himself out of town because of things that he said,
Mm-hmm.
or because of his actions.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically with the Vancouver Canucks. He was there for a year because he, he was torts, right? And then
Yeah.
he goes to Columbus, and he brings Columbus to being a perennial playoff team, being a very good team.
Yeah.
And then now he's in Philadelphia, and he's getting the best that he can out of that Philadelphia roster.
Mm-hmm.
But he's adapted to how the league is now, and to how more or less the world and things are. He's adapted who he is to fit more what's going on.
Yeah.
Daryl Sutter really didn't do that much, which I think is kind of why Calgary, he lost the Flames. He lost that room. And I think Babcock, amongst other obviously controversial things, that was another reason why I think he got ousted out of Toronto. Torts has done good to build himself up and change with times. Daryl Sutter, I don't know. Honestly, I hope Daryl Sutter just retires at this point.
Oh, I think
Babcock,
he will.
we'll
I think
see.
he will.
We'll
Well,
see.
who's going to take him on now? Who's going to take him on now? I don't see a club taking him on.
Sutter,
I think the
I
Bucket.
don't know if anybody goes for Sutter again. Honestly, I was surprised the Flames hired him that second time.
Yeah.
To be completely honest. To be
And
honest, but
and I think he's just done. I think he just wants to sit on his farm and relax and you
he
know,
should. I think he
maybe
should.
yeah, I think so too. Okay, Sam, let's move on to the next topic, which is the Vegas Golden Knights and Florida Panthers series thus far. Last week we were talking,
Mm-hmm.
it was a one game lead for Vegas, then an absolute destroy of a game in game two where they absolutely crushed them.
Yeah.
But then Florida really just with everything that's happening with it, and they're getting banged up. Like Tkachuk was playing very hurt in that last portion of that game. It's going to be interesting to see what happens tonight. I think also was it Carter Verheeke? I think his was hurt or someone had their wrist. He was one of their D men
I
had
don't
their
know if it
wrist.
was for Hagee. I don't know if it was for Hagee or not. I didn't actually get a chance to watch Game 3. I think I
Oh,
was
okay.
well. Game 3 was the day I was in the hospital, so I
Oh,
was
okay.
kind of preoccupied. But from at least what I saw, like for Hagee scored, I think the game winner. So I don't know if he really was having much trouble. And then Kachuk was gone. Well, throughout the whole first period, second period, and then he came back for the third period, ties the game, and then plays fantastic for the rest of the game. So I don't know, Matthew Kachuk is someone that I think like he gets hurt, but he just doesn't care unless it's like
Well,
really bad. He's just going to come back.
there's so much on the line. There's so much right now that's on the line. Like this history is potentially going to be made here, right?
Well, I think only 5 teams in NHL history have come back in the Stanley Cup final from being down 2-0. And
Yeah.
the most recent team was 12 years ago. It was the
Oh
Boston Bruins against Vancouver,
yeah. Okay. Okay.
which
Could happen.
I have that ingrained in my brain. But
I am so ready to have a few beers tonight. Make myself a nice big. I already got my guacamole. Gonna have the nachos
some chips
going,
and dip. There you go.
and I'm rooting for the Panthers, baby. Hopefully they can. I
Me
just
too.
I'm not a Vegas fan, not at all. Just
Me too. Me
not
too.
at
I'm
all.
excited. I'm excited to watch this game tonight. Like you said, there's a lot on the line
A lot
for
on the
that
line.
Florida Panthers team. And honestly, too, I'd say there's a lot on the line for Vegas tonight too.
And I
If Vegas takes a 3-1 lead tonight,
yeah,
then they can go home. They have that chance to knock it off in Game 5 at home.
in front of their crowd. Yeah,
Florida wins tonight. They tie the series. Then now suddenly all the momentum is in Florida's case.
exactly.
You
Yeah,
know, and
yeah,
now Vegas is kind of on their heels,
yeah.
right? If Florida goes into the Fortress, Florida steals Game 5. Suddenly they're back home with a chance to win in Game 6, right? So, like, there is a huge swing that could happen with tonight's game. And honestly, for me, in my opinion, to be completely honest, if Vegas wins tonight, Vegas wins in Game 5. That's my opinion. From my thought, Vegas wins
Highly
tonight.
likely.
Vegas takes it at home in 5.
Highly likely.
Yeah, if
Highly
Florida
likely.
wins tonight, Florida wins it in 6. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's my opinion. I genuinely think whoever wins it tonight, whoever wins tonight's game, will win the cup and will win it on their next available opportunity.
So I will agree with you on Vegas. If they win tonight, they're going to win it in Game 5 at the
Yeah,
Fortress. I agree with you
yeah.
there. I think if Florida wins tonight, I think this is going 7 games. I think
Which
it's
I
going
could see that happening too. But
yeah.
I think, for me, I think Florida just has that more of a fight in them for that underdog feeling, and that
Hmm.
they can switch that momentum so easily. They did it to Boston, they did it to Toronto, they did it to Carolina.
Yeah. And
They
to Chuck.
they flipped that momentum around, and yeah, don't knock out, don't knock against Matthew Tkachuk, don't knock against Bobrovsky just getting a shutout the next 3 games. Like, to be honest, like, don't knock against him playing friggin' stupid. And same thing for Hagee's been ridiculous. Montour's been ridiculous. Like, just don't knock against these guys.
Hmm. No, and God, I hated him as a Flame, but I just love him as a Panther. Like, like
I
he's,
think he fits with Florida better than he did with Calgary.
yeah,
He
yeah.
seems to be having more fun. I mean, I agree. I hated him too when he was on the Flames. Being a Canucks
Hmm.
fan, I hated him on the Flames.
Hmm.
Um, I still don't necessarily like him as a player, but I respect him as a player.
Hmm.
And I think he just seems to be having way more fun with Florida. Sorry to any Flames fans that might be watching, but he just seems to be having more fun with the Florida Panthers. And I mean,
Oh,
still,
for sure.
same thing with Vegas. Don't knock against Vegas. Jonathan Marchessault particularly has been phenomenal lately. Jack Eichel as well has been phenomenal. Like, Aiden Hill as well has played unreal too. Like, also don't knock against Vegas. Like, these teams are matched up pretty incredibly.
And you were saying how you think he's playing definitely better as a Panther compared to Flame. Well, the big huge difference is the coaching. I mean, you got kind of Paul Maurice with that kind of dry wit humor, and then you got uh, Sutter that was just, from my understanding, walking out of dressing rooms, smashing walls, throwing paintings off the ground, and all that kind of stuff, and just throwing a hissy fit. From what I've been told, again, no confirmed sources on it, but two totally different coaching styles. One is a little bit more of a educating the players. The other one is just do it this way or
Well,
else.
that's what I mean earlier, right?
Yeah.
Daryl Sutter is more of an old school, old style of hockey kind of coach. He's that rough and tough, nitty gritty kind of
Hmm.
guy, very defensively minded. Whereas Paul Maurice is also very defensively minded, but Paul Maurice is also very physically minded, and he's also very personable. I think, like, he
He's
knows
definitely
his players.
personable. He's
Yeah,
definitely a personable guy. Like
yeah. He knows
especially
his
what he
players.
said. Especially what he said in that one interview. He goes, "Ooh, is it just holy crap? It's pouring outside right now. Oh,
Oh, nice,
torrential downpour right now." But
good. You need it.
yes, we definitely it's coming down. Holy smokes! Anyway, just what he said. He's like, everyone needs to calm the, you know,
Everyone just effing breathe.
yeah, yeah, or yeah, F and breathe, everyone. Like, so yeah,
Well, because he said he was like, everyone knocked us out, when we
yeah,
were down before the series against Boston even started. Nobody gave us a chance.
yeah,
He's like, we didn't play very good in game 1, and then we got a little better, one game 2. Then we
yeah,
didn't play very well for 2 games, and we got a little better. He's like, so everyone just effing breathe, is what he said.
yeah,
So, and I agree with him. I agree with him.
yeah. I have to agree with him as well. So, Sammy,
Yep.
let's end off this broadcast with this final topic. I want your thoughts on Pierre Luc Dubois. He is now 2 for 2 in his NHL career of wanting to leave those franchises. If you're a GM, do you take a flyer on him and say, "Yeah, let's sign him up"?
He's still young enough, and he's still a very talented forward. Um, he also too is pretty physically minded. Like he's a very good player in the playoffs, especially. Um, in terms of taking, it's like yeah, GMs are going to take a chance on him. Even if I was a GM and he showed interest in coming to my team, I'd go for it because he is a good player. He's a good center. He can play, And yeah, whatever. If he decides to leave and he asks for a trade out, if I can trade him, I'll get some assets for him, whatever, get him gone. But I would take a chance on if I was a GM. I think if anything, he probably goes to Montreal Canadiens because that's who wants him, or that's where he wants to go primarily, and Montreal has the cap space to get him.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see.
To me, it's not a good look. Okay, your first, like, how many players, even Crosby, even McDavid, all those guys, even though they're the elite of the elite, have said it is such a privilege to be in the NHL. And then you got, I don't know, to me, it's like kind of a bit of a, I don't want to say it, but I'm just saying it out of my perspective, a bit of a spoiled boy mentality. It's, you
Yeah.
know, now he did have a tough coach in Tortorelli that rode his ass really, really bad.
Yeah.
That being said, I mean, I don't know, man. It's not a good look when you're 2 for 2 out of teams and you now saying, no, now I don't want to play for Winnipeg. And he just
Well,
said that with Columbus.
yeah. Who knows how his personal life is too with those things. Like
Correct.
maybe he's had some like actual tough times in Winnipeg. Maybe like there's been circumstances in his life that have made it hard to be in Winnipeg. Maybe there were circumstances that were hard to, for him to stay in Columbus.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there's some family stuff back home in Montreal and in Quebec that, he wants to be home closer to home for because maybe there's stuff going on there. I don't know. That's why for me, I never jump to conclusions on players asking for trades because who knows what their current life situation is.
Yeah, I
He
get
could
that.
very well just be a spoiled brat. He could
Mhm.
be and just be like, no, I want to go here. I want to go here. He could absolutely be like
Mhm.
that. No, no doubt about it. That could happen, but he could also, there could be circumstances in his life that have just taken him where he is.
And in all fairness, when it comes to Winnipeg, Evander Kane of the Edmonton Oilers, that was the one place he definitely wanted no part of. He wanted out of Winnipeg. He even stated that in the interview. He was upset with the fact that the Atlanta Thrasher, he loved it in Atlanta, but then when they moved to Winnipeg, he wasn't thrilled about being there, and he did want out of Winnipeg. That was one thing that he even admitted on an interview. So maybe it's they do have brutally cold winters. Like you're in Alberta. I've lived most of my life in Edmonton. Um, we know what cold is. They have a different level of cold. You know.
Yeah, and like Winnipeg, I have multiple friends from Winnipeg, and I have met a lot of people from Winnipeg. Even from native Winnipeggers and people from there, I have never heard a good thing about that city.
Okay, so maybe we'll throw a
To
flyer
be
on.
completely honest, I've never been there, so I can't speak for myself.
Yeah,
But I have friends. One of my favorite teachers in high school was born and raised in Winnipeg. He hates Winnipeg. I have other friends that are from Winnipeg, and they're like, "Yeah, we're happy to be gone. It's not a nice place." So
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. There's a
Well,
lot of players as well who don't like going and playing there. Don't want to go there.
and I'll be honest. Like I lived most of my life in Edmonton. 45 years in my life in Edmonton.
Yeah.
It's cold. It's cold. It's nice to live in the Okanagan. It's expensive to live in the Okanagan, but it's nice.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I wouldn't change it for anything. But I do remember when I was in Edmonton having that. Pardon me, guys out there, but having the runny nose freeze to your face,
Yep.
and there's
Yep.
been times where my car wouldn't start for a week, and yeah, I don't miss that. I don't miss
Oh.
literally the biting feeling on your cheeks when you're out in -30 with a -45 wind chill, right? So yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so maybe it's just a string of bad luck for the first two teams he has. I'm just saying it is a bit of a bad look to to want out on your first two teams, right? So we'll see. We'll
We'll
see
see what
what
happens.
happens. Yeah, maybe send him back to Columbus under Babcock.
No, I don't know about that.
No,
If
not.
he's going anywhere, he's going anywhere. It's Montreal, I think.
Yeah, and maybe he'll be happier there. Um, anyway,
Yeah.
Winnipeg right now has their own collective of problems right now as a group. They gotta get rid of some bodies and kind of disperse a little bit and reset a little bit, in my opinion, because
That roster is going to look a lot different next year.
yeah, yeah, it
I think
definitely,
Hellebuck's gone. I think Scheifele's probably gone.
yeah,
Maybe even Wheeler. But
yeah. Oh, I think it's gonna be honestly. I think Shovel Dayoff is gonna have his hands full here in the upcoming months, probably starting in the next couple weeks here when the I
draft
want to
hits.
say I want to say trade deadline. I want to say that
Draft.
again. I want to say the trade
Draft.
deadline. I don't know why it's stuck in me. The draft and then the free agency and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, Sammy, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure. I think this episode went off with a few hiccups, but I think overall it was pretty good.
Yep.
Uh, Lots of discussion points. And we will do this once again next week. We are still trying to build up our subscriber counts and all that. There is a separate channel now, but however, this still gets submitted to the Lubed channel. But in the next few weeks, I'm hoping that these broadcast lives will come on the new channel of NHL Aftermath with Sammy and myself. Sammy, send us into the darkness or whatever the hell the saying is.
Yeah. I mean, if like you enjoyed this video, click like and click subscribe. We're just two buds who enjoy talking about hockey. And if you enjoy talking about hockey or listening to two guys talk about hockey, then this is the place for you. We do have open discussions about it. You leave a comment or anything, we will address it. We'll talk about it and have a discussion about it. So yeah, subscribe to Lube, subscribe to the NHL Aftermath Challenge, and channel, not challenge. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
And, you know, feel free to join us in. We do vary our time limit or our time starts from week to week because of scheduling, but we hope to eventually get to a point where we'll have a consistent thing. But we will always post your comments or your questions on this channel live and try to answer them as best as you can. Other than that, Sammy, I think I am out, man.
Wait.
So we will see you next week, guys. You guys have a great night. Enjoy game number 4. It's going to be a doozy. Have a good one, guys.